It's an amazing process to build your own home. You take the seed of an idea and you sketch it on paper. Then slowly before your eyes, this thing starts to grow in front of you. After this coming month, we'll have built the shell to a home that will stand tall and proud to the test of time also. The job of building your own polystyrene walls, like any brick or formwork structure, is no mean feat. In fact, with these walls eventually summiting to nearly 4 metres in total height, and with care and precision as our guideline, the build becomes more of a marathon than a sprint. The next course gives rise to the need for additional lengths of steel reinforcement, which is twisted on with wire ties. At the same time as these polystyrene walls continue to climb, the old shack starts its reincarnation too. After the insulation foil is stapled into place, dabs of ultra-strength adhesive are slathered on, before the water-resistant particle board is finally laid and nailed into place. The timber frame is next to go up, and its size quickly brings into focus the mammoth task of constructing this home.
It's really exciting actually to see it all happening. It's a really big roof. I didn't realise it was going to be that big.
With the benefit of some added hands on site, the next concrete pour is due that same afternoon. In the baking heat, we patted and slapped this course into completion. We were now well on the way to the final course of block work, taking us finally to the finished roof height.
It all went well today.
All went well, yeah.
Not a problem at all actually. It's all nice and plumb and beautiful. It's just 4 hours in the baking.
Well, I'll tell you what it is doing. No, it's making my hair fall out. You know, I'm losing hair over this.
You're trying to be funny and it's
No,
not
it's
working.
not working, is
No,
it?
it's not working.
After this pour, a quick top-up of the thermocell blocks was in order to stockpile for the final exhausting leg of wall construction. But first, the steel beams for the lounge room would need to be wheeled and lifted into place. This steel, specified by our engineer, was necessary to support the clear-story window that sits atop of the main living room, and is designed to bathe this area in natural light. As we begin the final ascent, the aid of a ladder and a scaffold is required. The job becomes a tandem two-man team, with one cutting down below and the other working up on the scaffold. The openings are then framed up for the final concrete pour. With our steel ligatures tied on too. These ligatures are cut and bent into shape on site and are tied on to create reinforcement cages for the concrete over these window and door openings, forming super strength lintel beam supports once cured. Lastly, we fashion our own on-site timber braces that we use to sandwich and support the walls for the final pour ahead. This pour will be the biggest of all, and at 6 rows high, it will require around 35 tonnes of concrete in all. After nearly 5 weeks of working long days in the elements, 7 days a week, the physical toll of construction was becoming evident.
Oh, look, the whole thing's taking a lot longer than I expected. I thought we'd be past this point by now, but we're still not. Just seem to be dragging our heels, and yet we're working all the time, so it's just not going as I'd hoped, but that's today. Maybe tomorrow I'll feel better about it, but today I just want to get on with it.
With our rookie expectations of finishing the walls in an unrealistic 3 weeks, being closer to double that at 6 weeks in total meant we were mentally unprepared for the actual size of the task at hand for both of us.
Can we not do this now? I've got so much to do, it's not funny. I'm really not in the mood. Can we not do this? We've got bracing to put on, got more bricks to put on. We'll do it tomorrow, seriously. Do it tomorrow.
Before too long, over and over, the final blocks and bracings start to fall into place. And as nighttime follows day, we're closing in. Soon, a finished home suddenly comes into view, with trusses and a roof all that is necessary now to shut the shade in. The final pour day arrives, and with a morning's work to tweak the last pieces of bracing, the finish line is just hours away. With the arrival of the Wholesome truck and our concrete pumps hooked up, it was time for the final pour. Watching this concrete flow was the moment that cemented our achievement. 1,000 or more blocks all carefully cut and locked together over 6 solid weeks, mostly at the hands of just Dad and I. With the Herculean task of building our own walls officially set in stone, our bodies weren't quite feeling as strong.
Well, it's 7:30 and we started at 6 o'clock. We poured about 16 cubic metres, so what's that, about 34 tonnes of concrete. And we came pretty close to the wire, and I'm tired.
We worked solidly all day, and finally these walls are up and done. Thank you. Good night. That's it. Bye-bye.
With the frame stage now on its way to completion, we ventured to the Melbourne suburb of Fitzroy to discover the award-winning Cloud House. As Melbourne's first suburb, created in 1839, the early days of 19th century Fitzroy was an attractive and exclusive residence for city gentlemen, being the wealthy bankers and merchants whose mansions still survive today. Before long, the area began drawing in the working class man, as Melbourne's industrial manufacturing base grew nearby. But by the late 1800s, the major depression of the time turned the suburb into what can only be described as a slum territory. With poverty rife, mansions quickly turned into boarding houses, as notorious Fitzroy became synonymous with crime and unemployment. Soon, post-World War II, European immigrants moved here, which was followed by decades more of migrant settlers that flourished in the area, bringing with them the food and coffee culture that is still experienced today. With large-scale restoration and investment into Fitzroy over the past decades, it's now an exclusive suburb, rich in history and just a tram ride from the Melbourne CBD.
Now, the homes lining this street are from that same era, or the turn of last century. The style was known as Edwardian, and it was a lot less ostentatious than the previous design styles of the late 1800s or the late Victorian era, yet it still had much the same character, charm and ornamental finish. This Edwardian home, though, is one with a twist, and it definitely proves you should never judge a book by its cover. So there's three really distinct forms to the house, or three separate sorts of episodes to the home. What are they?
At the facade is, the original house, which has a history of its own. It's obviously at some stage had probably a migrant family, because that's the sort of thing they would do, was put metal windows into these historical homes because it was practical. So there was good sense to those things, but you can see that history. So you've got that original facade, you open the front door and you see this absurd carpet, really. It's quite outrageous, colourful. So something's going on, but really the front part of the house is virtually intact with that, with some modernisation, new bathrooms and things like that. And then you get to that kitchen, and that's sort of like a toy-like thing, it's this sort of transformer that is kind of like a junction box, and then you open up into the cloud, which is all about light, really, light and air.
Made from Australian spotted gum hardwood, it's this variety of colours from this very beautiful natural material lining the inside of the cloud that's been chosen to create the ultimate feeling of warmth.
The material in the kitchen is plywood, and that's been stained and clear finished as well, so it's pretty tough as well.
And it's very red as well.
It's very red. So it is toy-like, transformer. It's almost a bit retro toy-like, I think.
And it was pop art that was the core philosophy behind this architectural idea. And the central premise of this was all about using the overscaling of objects to change your perception.
And we'd like to have a few layers so people can keep discovering things. We don't want our houses to be boring, I suppose. We often have influences from art, but sometimes actually from science too. Like when we did the Klein Bottle house, we were very interested in mathematics and in basically a mathematical surface. At any one time, we're bowerbirds, I suppose, is the answer to you.
And it's this sense of playfulness with the Cloud House, which uses unique shapes and materials, bold and fun colour choices, plus an abundance of natural light, all while preserving its sense of history, that together helps to guide our ideas about the materials, colour selections and design choices for our new home.
Sometimes it might come very immediately, and sometimes it might actually take a long time for you to come to what you think is the correct solution, because you feel it once you're there. Once you've come up with an idea, you just sort of feel it. You know that it's right at some point. But sometimes it takes a long time to get there, and sometimes it's very easy to get there, but you can never tell.
With the inspiration for our new home being this rugged and windswept ocean coastline, this natural beauty will be the guiding influence for our design teams who are soon to arrive. But before they get here, we first have to get our roof trusses up. Like a hot knife through warm butter, the grinder and chisel first etches out this polystyrene channel. Then, a structurally rated timber beam, or whaling plate, is hammered and bolted into position. Additional load-bearing supports, being timber top plates, are also fixed on top of the hallway walls, giving strength to the entire framework that will soon tie these walls together. This very tiring and repetitive labouring work, although not all that complicated, is more a test of patience than carpentry skill. As a new day begins, and with the top plates and whaling plates now finished, the rest of the structure starts to take shape. With the trusses now on site, they are quickly sorted, and with the preparation work and final measurements out of the way, they can finally be hoisted up. Trusses being a two-person carpentry job, this tandem team quickly finds their rhythm as they double-check everything before fitting off each of the 50 individually labelled and numbered trusses. As each of these trusses are carefully lifted into position, they are sat in saddles that are painstakingly nailed off one by one. Timber pine lengths, or cords, are then fixed on to steady the structure.
Yeah, it just keeps everything in place. It keeps all our centres the same. It basically just keeps everything straight, in line, and holds it all together.
The process of sorting, lifting and nailing would continue over the next few days, before soon giving way to the next stages, which sounded pretty straightforward.
Process from here is bracing, battens, box gutters, and then roof.
With the trusses all hung, the job of bracing and strengthening the framework would march on. Steel bracing crisscrosses the entire framework, and it's this strapping that diagonally clamps this structure tightly together. Battens are soon fixed into place, and spanning the entire length and width of the home, these will be what the roofing steel is directly anchored into by our roofing plumbers in the weeks to come. The clear story window is given special attention to, with timber framing bolted to the steel girders, essential for our carpenters to fix the future windows and roof too. Box gutters that cleverly hide in the roof are soon lined with a floor of timber cords, and the counterlevered alfresco and porch roof are framed up too. In the hot summer sun, shadows start to appear, and as they dance across the walls and this floor, the final pieces of our jigsaw puzzle fall into place. After 4 exhausting months since we first started demolishing the shack, the milestone of a finished frame stage soon dawned upon us. And a tour through the new home unveiled each of the rooms in their full size and glory. The wide hallway casts the first impression and connects each of the living spaces. The first room, being the master bedroom, features a walk-in wardrobe and a private ensuite too. The bedrooms will each have an abundance of natural light and robe space, plus are all within reach of the media room and general bathroom. This all takes place before the great crescendo to the home, being the open plan living and kitchen area that looks out onto a large alfresco dining and future entertaining deck. Getting a feeling for these spaces and seeing how these architectural blueprints have come to life is important, most especially for both of our design teams, who are each here for the very first time to see the new home. And first to inspect our hard work were our property stylists Lisa and Neil, who were here to start the process of sourcing the furnishings for the home.
Incredible. It's actually much bigger than I was expecting, I must say.
I told you that. Why don't you take a look around?
Thank you.
With Lisa's background in real estate and Neil's expertise in retail merchandising, their experience in the art of property styling was important to help us find and select the right furniture, accessories, textiles and decorations.
I think what we would like to do probably is have all the bedrooms tell a slightly different story.
And it's by creating this unique story for each of these spaces that will be key to the experience of our home, which is all designed to build an emotional connection as people journey through the property.
Using accessories, artwork, soft furnishings, they're all, if you use them in a balanced way, you create a whole story and a lifestyle, and that's what we aim to achieve.
Then as we approach the room, the
Tying these furnishing selections with the interior design team will also be important to make this experience seamless.
This feels good. Doesn't it feel nice?
Yeah, it feels great, doesn't it?
So big.
With a measuring tape and notes in hand, and with Mum on site to go through and tick off on ideas, it was a good chance for our interior designers, Sam and Richard, to visualise and refine all of their concepts too.
So here is where the colour blocking concept comes into play, where we've got the beautiful concrete floors that are flowing through.
Understanding the depths and the sizes of spaces will not only help to craft the end look, but it will also help to set order quantities and budgets going forward. With samples on hand, double-checking design drawings and the material selection was just as important. And with all of the measurements finished too, the job of sourcing and ordering these materials can now get underway. Well, what a massive few months it's been for our building project. The frame is up, the steel is in, and our walls are completed, which for any building project is a major milestone, let alone for a couple of novices like us. All that we have to do now is keep the weather out and make it beautiful. See you later. Next week, our windows begin their journey to be measured, melded, machined and finished on site. And our roof will go on too.